Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain club rooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30 p.m. local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Okay, this is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania with our DATV Experimenters Night. Justin VK7TW at the mic this evening, and before we commence, I wish to acknowledge Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional owners of the land upon which we present tonight, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the knowledge, the culture and hopes of Aboriginal Tasmania. Okay, we've got a huge night tonight. I sat down last night to come up with the running sheet, and thought, oh, I'm going to be scratching for things. And by the end of a couple of 5 or 10 minutes, we had a complete two-sided, two-page running sheet. So, the very first thing that I wanted to just show you, and this is a wonderful bit of reprise, I suppose you'd say. Last week we had Tony and Murray and Richard in the studio talking about the Summer VHF and Above Field Day. Now, I totally forgot that during the field day there was I made a contact with a VK2ASB, a guy called Arthur Bowman, who made contact with me on 6 meters single sideband when 6 meters was open on the field day, and he happened to mention and I'll go to, there we go. That's his QSL card with a couple of kangaroos on it, VK2ASB, and I'll just flick it over. He's a member of the CW Fists QRP club, but 50.155, 59 signal, which is fantastic, and he makes the comment on here. He said, "Many thanks for the QSO. For my first QSO on 6 meters." First SSB QSO on 6 meters. So thank you, Arthur, and thank you for sending me. He actually posted me the QSL card. So given he's gone to the trouble of the QSL card, I am certainly going to send him one of my QSL cards. The funny thing about my QSL cards, though, having think about it, it's a field day, so my maidenhead is not my maidenhead, and the latitude and longitude here are not my latitude and longitude anymore anyway. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but a bit of an intrigue from the field day, and a bit of a follow-up for the field day. And so I will send this off to you, Arthur, and thank you very much. And I find it a great privilege to be your first contact, 6 metre contact, 6 metre SSB contact. Now, the other thing I've got to remind people of is, for Warren's benefit, Warren VK7 Whiskey November's benefit, the logs for the field day need to be in by midnight on the 29th of January 2024. So it's about a week away. You need to have your logs in for the VHF and UHF Summer Field Day by midnight on the 29th of January, and you can upload your logs to the VK log checker. I think it's the VK log checker. I think I'm right there, but anyway, have a look on the WIA website, because it will tell you the address and where you can upload your logs to. Now, also a bit of a reminder, for the month of January is always the Ross Hull Memorial Contest. Now, the Ross Hull Memorial Contest is a VHF and above contest that runs for the whole of January. It's a distance-based contest, very much like the field days, so exchange of maidenheads and signal reports. It takes either your best 2 or your best 7 or 8 days, I think it is. And the advantage is, if you operated in the field day, you can submit your field day log as a Ross Hull log and use the contacts that you made on the field day towards the Ross Hull contest as well. So that makes it really, really easy. So there you go. That's our contesting. Now, Mr. Ben, VK7BEN. Now, let's see if we can do this. Okay. Cool. Now, Ben VK7BEN sends me links, and also posts links on the Discord, the club Discord channel. And if you're interested in becoming involved in the Discord channel, let us know, because we can send you a link. So yeah, please, if you're interested in the banter that goes on the various Discord channels, and we have a themed channels. So there's some interesting stuff that gets posted there. And one of the things that Ben posted from HackADay, HackADay.com, which is a fantastic website and lots of amateur radio content on HackADay, was this man here, Brian Cockfield, came up with simulating a timekeeping radio signal. And you'll notice here there is a wonderful, what I can see here is a wonderful little Arduino. There is an interface board. There is a GPS controller here with a GPS flat patch antenna that connects into the Arduino. And over here there is a very interesting little ferrite rod. Ferrite rod, I think that's the receiver side of it. But the ferrite rod is receiving the generated time signal using GPS, so it's GPS locked, out to an antenna or a pin. It's very low power, and is just within the vicinity of sort of the test bench. But it puts out a WWVB simulated signal. So WWVB is the time signal that emanates from Colorado. That's one of a number that are around the world. And this is, I'll post this in the video chat, but simulating a timekeeping radio signal. So a bit of a blast from the past, and a huge thank you to Ben who posted that and made it available to everybody. And it goes through the, I think it's an instructable, yeah, it goes up to the instructable website, which is where, by John Mackey, and it goes through step by step on how you actually build and where you can get the code for the Arduino, etc., etc. So, so there you go. Absolutely fantastic HackADay website. If you haven't come across HackADay, it's worth a look. And if you do a search on amateur radio, it comes up with all sorts of interesting projects around amateur radio. So there you go. Now, staying on a bit of a time theme, I've got a bit of sad news which comes from Andrew, and I think Andrew, just let me check. I think Andrew might be... Yes, Andrew, hello from sunny Kettering. So, hello, Andrew. And if you happen to be... Oh, and Paul's there. Paul says, g'day. And Ben, oh, hello. Yes. Well, Ben, there you go. See, we are featuring what you've posted on Discord. So there you go. So hello, Andrew and Paul and Ben. They're on board. Now, Andrew posted also on the Discord channel the unfortunate news that Dr. David Mills, who is the creator of the network time protocol, died at the age of 85, which is a bit of sad news. He died aged 85 on the 17th of January 2024, and Dave Mills was created the network time protocol in 1985 to address a crucial challenge in the online world, the synchronization of time across different computer systems and networks in a digital environment where computers and servers are located all over the world, each with its own internal clock. There is significant need for a standardized, accurate timekeeping system. And I think Andrew posted on the Discord channel that he looks after many computers around the world and all over the place, and there needs to be this time, this ability to get them all things happening at the same time, and the network time protocol is the way that each of these systems does that and keeps accurate time on each of these machines. So from a logging perspective, they all get logged at the right time, etc. So I don't know, Andrew, whether you want to use or provide an example in the chat here. And Andrew made a comment. There's also a UK one. Yeah, rugby. Now rugby, I don't think exists anymore. I think they've shut rugby down. From memory, I read something. I think that rugby is no longer a time signal. There was another one in Germany. There was the German one. Very low frequency. VLF. And there are all sorts of bits and pieces in there. So yeah, but very sad news. David Mills, so Vale David, died at age 85, and is his claim to fame is that he's the creator of the network time protocol. And it's a fascinating. It's actually, you could dedicate a whole program on network time protocol. Because the way that it actually does the alignment is pretty impressive, and it's a great bit of thinking around a pretty tenuous problem. So there you go. So now let me go back to, let's see whether this works. Okay, that worked. Now, if I go to here and I zoom out, this is a Google Earth path plot, an elevation path plot, mostly the right time. There's always at least one that decides to go its own way. Okay, that's a comment by Andrew. For an experienced comment by Andrew. There's always one that wants to go its own way. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so the next segment that we want to do is on this last weekend I was up in the northwest of Tasmania at a wonderful little place called Sheffield. I was accompanying my partner Helen, who was up there for a harp weekend, and I decided that I was going to go off and activate a couple of summits, which and especially one particular summit which I hadn't got to in past harp events. There is a series of summits, of 3 summits, in what is called the Fosse Mountains, or more commonly referred to as Mount Roland, and I'll show you some pictures in the not too distant future. But this particular mountain that I wanted to activate was called, or is called, Mount Claude, and Mount Claude is a 6-point summit, and then not that far from Mount Claude, about 10 or so kilometres further on, is Mount Vandyke. Now, Mount Vandyke, I featured on this on the DATV nights a couple of times because I have activated it a couple of times in previous years. But I've also activated Mount Roland, and I've done Mount Roland and Mount Vandyke together. But I've never quite had enough time to activate Mount Claude. So, as part of the planning that I did a Google Earth. Now, Google Earth is a wonderful little application where you can put in the path, and you can see I've put in a dotted path here, it comes through here. Here's Mount Claude, and then it drops down into a gully. Back up onto a plateau, and then you do Mount Vandyke, which is I think somewhere around about here. Somewhere here. This is the valley just here. It comes back up. Mount Vandyke's around about here, and then you drop back down into a gully, and it's a gentle slope out until you get to what's called the O'Neill's Creek car park, which is just here. Now, what you can do is tick the little box just here that says show elevation profile, and it shows you what the elevation does for that particular path. And you can see we start here at the Round Mountain Lookout, and the Round Mountain Lookout was where VK7 EV and a couple of others were operating on the field day, so they know this location very well, and apparently they were up there on Sunday as well. Missed them on Sunday, but I was off in Devonport on Sunday. But yeah, the Round Mountain Lookout just here, and you start on here, and there is a road, very steep road that goes up here to some communications facilities, and I'll show you some pictures of that. And you can see you start at about 700 metres, which is here. Fairly steep rise up here to about 992, so 1,000 metres around about here, so you're 1 kilometre above sea level. And this is where Mount Claude is. Then you walk along the plateau of Mount Claude, and then you drop down off the side of Mount Claude into the gully of Junction Track, and you come down to about the same level or a little bit higher than where you went in at the 700 metre mark. You come down there, and then it is a really steep climb out of that gully up onto the plateau of Mount Vandyke, and then you get to Mount Vandyke here, and then it is a gentle slope all the way down and all the way to the car park, and down here you're at about 400 metres. So, and up here, up at the top here, you're at about 1,062 metres is the very top of that particular scale. So now this particular path, it tells me that this particular path that I put on the map is 14 kilometres. Now I'll just tell you, once you take into account all of the weaving and everything in these tracks and all the other bits and pieces that you do, it's actually double that. My Garmin watch was telling me it's 28 kilometres. and my legs were certainly telling me that it was 28 kilometres, and there were 2 activations in the middle there. So you've got about an hour here and an hour here that you lose. I started up here at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I finished down here at 4:30 in the afternoon. So yeah, that gives you a bit of an idea. So I thought I'd show you a few pictures. If I can get this up and going, let me see how we go here. Oh, there we go. Now, that is the stereotypical view of Mount Roland. Now, Mount Roland is the very picturesque mountain that everyone takes a photo of. Mount Vandyke and Mount Claude are a plateau that they look like a plateau. Oh, hang on, retry. Don't you love that when you're right in the middle of a sign back in? When you're right in the middle of a yep, let's do that. At least it's not showing my password up here. Okay, so Mount Roland is the much more spectacular looking one here, and then Mount Vandyke's next to it, and it's a plateau with some boulders in the middle of it that poke out, and then there's Mount Claude, which is very similar. So that was the view from our accommodation. Oh no, forget that. That's at Sheffield. That was personal interest. Now, you start off at the Round Mountain Lookout. This is the Round Mountain Lookout. Unfortunately, we were not in cloud at this stage because the cloud then closed in when I got to Mount Claude, and I was in cloud for all of the activations, so I had absolutely no view. This is the Round Mountain Lookout. You start the track here. This is where the track up to the telecommunications facility starts. This is the sort of track you're talking about. It's quite steep. There's about 7 segments of concrete along this track, which tells you how steep it is, because they only put concrete in when it's a really steep track, so that they've got some traction to get up. And you can see some towers up the top there. Once you get up to the actual towers, there's a Telstra tower here, and there's a television translator and a few other repeaters and bits and pieces here. And there's a very impressive boulder that is precariously perched right at the top of the road. So that's a bit interesting, and you get to that. All conglomerate around this area. This is the Telstra tower. Now, the reason I took this was, on top of the Telstra tower is a funny phased array of folded dipoles. Now, this funny array of folded dipoles is the TAS-GRN, or the Tas Government Radio Network. This is their antennas that they have put on all their TAS-GRN bases. So if you see this type of antenna on top of a mobile tower, this is a mobile tower. This is Tas Government Radio Network antennas. So just thought I'd take a photo of that. Bit of a panorama before the cloud set in, where I had a bit of a view. This is off to the northwestish direction. Now you get to a little turn off that says Mount Claude Lookout. So I headed up there, and I checked whether this was in the activation zone. Now, when I say in the activation zone, what I'm talking about there is it is within 25 metres of the actual top of the summit. And this particular, this has got one little tower on it. I'm not sure what the tower is. It's got one little tower with one little service on it. But this particular lookout is within the activation zone, and there's a nice little flat platform that you can operate from, which is where I actually did the contacts. Just as I started making contacts, the cloud clouded in, and that was it. That's the sort of track you're walking along, a fairly well marked track. Sometimes you're pushing through scrub. The scrub tended to rise up until over your head height, so you're pushing through a canyon of scrub in some places. So long sleeves, long pants, all the rage here. Now, this is Mount Claude. So just a fraction further on that track is Mount Claude, whereas there's this big boulder. And in the back of the boulder, you can actually, there is a rope, and you can climb up onto the summit, if you like, a bit higher up this rocky outcrop. if you really want to. I decided not to because I was running out of time, so I kept pushing on, but that's Mount Claude. A few of the vistas that you see as you're walking along Mount Claude, you're walking along the plateau, so it's reasonably flat. You go sort of up and down and all sorts of things. I think this is looking to Bass Strait, so this is looking north. And then I took some, that's also looking north. I took some looking south as well. Oh, that's the track. Now, okay, what we're looking at here is we're on the Mount Claude Plateau, looking across the gully that you need to go down into, and we're looking across to Mount Vandyke. Now, Mount Vandyke is actually this little thing here, and you might think this is higher than that. When you actually get up there, this is actually lower than that particular because of curve of earth and all sorts of stuff, but that's Mount Vandyke over here. So you've got to drop down into this gully and junction track, and then basically you come up a really steep track up here, and then up onto the plateau, and then it's flat across to Mount Vandyke. When you get to Mount Vandyke, oh, this is looking south. This is a bit more looking south. I haven't worked out what those peaks are yet. I'll work that out at some stage. Again, looking south, a bit further. Looking... Oh, that was my spots. Now, this is Mount Vandyke. So there are basically a whole lot of boulders on top of the plateau, which make it the highest point on the plateau. And I just set up, I think, yeah, there we go. Mount Vandyke, there's the sign. There's a whole bunch of rocks. I operated in the middle of those rocks on a suitable flat rock, set up the squid pole. Now, one of the things that happened at that point was I went to 7 megs and I was getting absolutely nobody. And people were telling me they were calling in, but they were not. I was not hearing them. When I looked, there was actually a broken connection on one of the links on the link dipole, and it was the 20-meter link. And so one side of the dipole was a 20-meter length, and the other side was a 40-meter length, which doesn't work very well. And it was telling me that the SWR was off the show. So a quick bit of repair, hand repair, and I got back on the air. And as soon as I connected that up, I heard VK3PF call me, Peter Freeman, and we made a contact, and everything was right from there. I then stayed on 40 meters for that particular summit. On Mount Claude, half of them were 7 megs, half of them were 14 megs. The Americans were absolutely powering in. I did try to contact a few of them, but they're running 1500 watts and I'm running 10 watts, and they have their noise floor would be off the show. My noise floor was 0, and so I have not got a hope in hell of getting above their noise floor. So they were absolutely powering in, but I had no hope in hell of contacting them. Now, Sheffield is of course the town of murals. That's their claim to fame. They have a mural fest every year, and there's some wonderful murals around the place. I took a few of them. Wakefield Castrol, motor oil. I love it. Being the petrol head I am. Now Devonport Maritime Museum. That's the Bass Strait cable. Actually, we'll just skip through these because I want to show you. This is Devonport. That's Mersey Bluff. I went for a walk with one of my harp husband buddies up in Devonport. Had a very enjoyable Sunday up there. Oh, and here's the harp weekend. Now, in Sheffield, there is a wonderful shop run by a guy called Batman. And Batman is a bit of an eclectic guy. Everyone in the town knows him. There's usually Black Sabbath or a Pink Floyd or something absolutely blasting out of this shop. But across the road, he's got his shop set up as the Monty Python Cheese Shop sketch. Now, For those people who don't know the cheese shop sketch, you need to look it up. But this is the cheese shop sketch all set up, and you'll see that there are all of the different sorts of cheeses that feature in the cheese shop. The rising popularity of cheese-related poetry, a worrying social trend, by Gorgonzola. There is Roquefort, Gorgonzola, Parmesan, Caithness, Red Windsor, the Venezuelan beaver cheese, the White Stilton, the smoked Austrian, the Norwegian Jarlsberger, Brie, and of course there would have to be the feature of, let me just skip here, the feature of Stilton, cheesy poems, oh, maybe there isn't Camembert. Oh, okay, I didn't see Camembert there, which is how they finish the cheese shop. But the cheese shop is, here we go, Henry Wensleydale. Wensleydale is the purveyor of the cheese shop, and it is the ye olde cheese emporium, purveyors of fine cheeses to the gentry and the poverty-stricken too. High-profile location. The shop's actually up for lease. So there is Batman has a definite sense of humour. So worth a visit. Batman's shop. Oh, here's another one of the murals in Sheffield. The Dr. Wren's Vitality pills. Then there is some wonderful Art Nouveau windows, and this is the sort of architecture in Sheffield. That's the general store. And now this is a wonderful wireless shop mural that's on the side of a building. And if I go to the next, it'll tell us. Here we go. The Wireless Studio, 1926. As a young man in Melbourne, Jesse Slater became interested in wireless telegraphy. He settled in Sheffield, married the daughter of a local storekeeper, Thomas Clark, and became the third person in northern Tasmania to own a wireless. He built a wireless studio in the rear of his shop to get reception. He needed an aerial 50 yards long, strung between poles, 55 feet high. Local people were invited in to put the headphones on, the earphones on, and hear the static transmission. So absolutely love that. So there was a bit of wireless in Sheffield. So there you go. Now here we go. This is Mount Claude. So you start at Round Mountain, which is down here. You walk all the way up here. You get to Mount Claude, which is just here. Then there's the plateau of Mount Claude. You walk your way down into the gully of the junction track, and then down into the gully here, and then back up onto the plateau, which is Mount Vandyke. So Mount Claude to Mount Vandyke traverse is by far the longest traverse of the three summits. Mount Roland is even further on. Is actually further on and around the corner. It actually is in an L shape, the Fosse Mountains. So anyway, that's Mount Claude and Mount Vandyke. Oh, and we finish off in Deloraine. Now this is another country town not that far from Sheffield, and Deloraine has these wonderful statues, and this is the Jimmy Possum chair. Now, the region around Deloraine is where the Jimmy Possum chair, which was a horizontal scrub chair that was made, that had absolutely no nails or screws that held it together. It was a folk chair, and there is a monument to it there, the Jimmy Possum chair. Anyway, that's enough of enough of the SOTA trip. That's a little bit of soldering. Let me push that, and we'll just go back here because there's probably some comments in here. Lionel, hello Lionel. And sorry Paul, sorry for the PTSD flashbacks to Mount Dromedary. I apologise for that. Colin, hello Colin. Andrew, Steamfest is worth a visit if you're near Sheffield. Yes, the other claim to fame for Sheffield on the... Now, I think it's the Easter weekend. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Andrew, but I think it's the Easter weekend. They run Steamfest. They have a big area which is dedicated to steam traction engines, steam railways, anything that runs on steam. And in fact, there are quite a few amateurs that are involved in the Steamfest. There is Ross VK7ALH. There is Graham, VK7GS, and a whole bunch of other amateurs which are all involved. So there is great amateur involvement in Steamfest. So you'll see lots of amateurs up there if you go up during Steamfest. So there you go. And Phil, hello Phil. There is, I'll put a link to the SOTA activations in the video description. I write up a blog that hopefully is helpful to the March weekend. There you go, March weekend apparently 2024, the 9th, 10th and 11th. Thank you, Andrew, that's great. So the March long weekend is Steamfest, so well worth a look and really popular, really popular. So if you haven't booked your accommodation nearby, I would do so fairly quickly. So that's great. All right, now I finish off with as you know, I play with Raspberry Pis, and Raspberry Pis do a whole lot of things in my shack. And I came across one of these. Now, there is your stock standard Raspberry Pi Model 4, Model 4B, 8 gig boards, which are now becoming available again. But the interesting thing was, I've always eyed off, there is a full metal, and I'll turn this over because it's cast or it's machined aluminium that have all of the different pads at the right place for all of the different chips on a Raspberry Pi that need heat sinking. You get a little kit which has these little double-sided sticky pads which are heat conducting pads. So what you do is you stick each of these pads on each of these areas, and then you sandwich the Raspberry Pi. There's 4 screws that screw together. It's got slots for all of the connectors and the GPIO pins, and this all screws together and it forms a complete heatsink case. And you get there's a little Allen key in there and everything to screw it all up with, and it forms a pretty robust little box that is basically all heatsink. So you're never going to have problems with your Raspberry Pis overheating ever again, and you don't need to run a fan with it. That's one of its claim to fame. It will survive some pretty extreme temperature gradients by itself without having a fan. Of course, a fan will improve that even further, and not even that wouldn't even get warm. So anyway, Raspberry Pi. That's a Raspberry Pi case. The case is. Let me go here. Is hang on. Let me zoom out a bit here. Heatsink case for the Raspberry Pi 4. There actually isn't that much detail on this case, and it doesn't even have where it's made. But a heatsink case for the Raspberry Pi 4. I think you can get. You can also get it for the Raspberry Pi 5 now, and I assume you probably can get it for the Raspberry Pi 3. Although the threes I think going out of production. So yeah, I'm going to be using that. It is a amateur radio application that I'll be using it for. It is a HP SDR. It is running the Pi HP SDR application. I am currently using a Raspberry Pi 3, which struggles a little bit every so often with the processing power, which is hence I've gone to Raspberry Pi 4. and that will be mounted inside the HPSDR case. It contains Alex bandpass filters and also a 7-inch Raspberry Pi screen, touch screen, which is running the Pi HPSDR application, which I've shown here a little while ago with the Raspberry. That was the last thing I showed that used the Pi HPSDR control surface. So there you go. So we're at 8:12, so I might call it quits at that. Big reminder. Oh, hang on. Oh dear, oh dear. This is. I keep forgetting that our very last thing that we always do is space weather, and we have some warnings. We have a geomagnetic warning, so let's click on the geomagnetic warning. For the 25th and 26th, we've got a G1 to G2, and for the 26th is the G2, so that's Friday. That's our Australia Day, and I'll go into our Australia Day contest in a sec. We've got, of course, some HF comms warning if there are other warnings here. For the 25th to the 27th, multiple CME events are expected over the 25th and 26th. Likely causing degraded HF radio communications, and we have a HF fade out warning, of course, as well, which is R1 and R2 up to the 25th. So if comms difficulties experienced, try a higher frequency band. And can I just say that 6 meters is going off right at the moment. There was a TX5 that a few people around here, I think Hayden, contacted. Now TX5 is on a island somewhere near Hawaii, fairly rare DX location, so there was a TX5 on 6 meters that was coming in loud and clear, and there was the VK5s were working Europe, the VK ZLs were working Japan, we were working Japan, we were working all over the place, so it is well and truly going off. So yeah, huge activity. Now the Australia Day competition here in VK. We have an Australia Day contest, and the Australia Day contest I was just going to show. Here we go. Now the WIA website, Australia Day contest. Now, the Australia Day encourage amateur radio promotional activity around the world and designed to encourage friendly participation and help improve the operating skills of participants. It's held on the Australia Day public holiday, that being the 26th of January, which is this Friday. And you may or may not be taking it as a holiday. It is a controversial holiday in Australia for those who are not in Australia. And you can use the AX prefix, so you will hear, I would be AX7TW, and I'm quite within my rights to use that on Australia Day, and make as many contacts as you can around the world. So it is just to get the AX prefix out and about. Many categories: single, multi-operator. There are phone, CW mix, digital, FT8, FT4. Etc. 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 The exchange is just a signal report and a 4-character grid square. It's on 160, 80, 40, 20, 15 and 10 meters only, and you can then, once you've got your log, you can upload it using the VK log checker, and it will do all the wonderful calculations for you, and there's the rules and etc. So I will put a link in the video description. Okay, that's our show for tonight. Just a reminder, February the 7th, Greg Bird, Surf Lifesaving Tasmania Radio Network will be streamed. Our AGM is on Sunday, February the 18th. We're starting with a free barbecue, and then we go into the AGM and the SGM, I think from 1 o'clock. I think I've got that right. And then we've got a space junk and the role of amateur radio presentation in March. So that should be absolutely fascinating. Anyway, that's our program for tonight. Thanks for everyone who was on the chat. Seems like a bit like Columbus Day here in the States. Well, it may well be, Lionel. Tell us more about Columbus Day. Is that the discovery of the white discovery of America versus the fact that the indigenous population was already there and had been there for quite a while, which is one of the issues that we've got with Australia Day. It's either called Australia Day or Invasion Day, so that's depends on which side of the fence you're on. So anyway, all right. 73, have a great week, and we'll catch you next Wednesday night. This has been VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night. Cheers.